So from here, as I mentioned, we'll call enable dark screen, but let's first create it. That happens in the UI5 on screen widget in here. So the thing that I didn't mention about this before is that in here we can actually be editing the graphics, but we also have this button over here that says graph. Click on that and we get blueprints and event graphs, but related to this widget, which is perfect. And in here, we don't really need this or this. We will use the event construct in a few moments, not now. But before that, you guessed it, we will right click and say custom event. We'll add one that we're going to call enable dark screen. And we'll compile and we'll save. And here on the enable dark screen, I want to create and do something else that is rather clever. But let me show you why. I want to say right click here and then go for switch on. And then quite a few episodes ago, we created enum underscore gateway skin tooth. Gate skin tooth, this is what I call it. And see here we do different logic depending on what color. It's essentially this, okay, that we made. And we want this reflected in the UI elements because I want to go through the red portal and then invoke a red effect on the screen. I don't want a blue one playing. So in here, now that we have this switch, we want to be able to, when calling the dark screen, tell it what enum type to have. And to do that, I'm going to click on the enable dark screen, and here in the input, I'll click the plus, and then I'll change it to the green, the byte, okay? And byte goes into byte. Oh, okay, it does not. I want to now click on this, and then I want to say enum gate skin tooth, okay? This is the type of the parameter. And the parameter I'm going to say gateway skin. And see we get this like perfect, and we compile, we save, and then this can go into this into that. And here we want to call the different colors on a piece that we'll call VFX screen, and it doesn't exist yet, so let's make that. We click on the designer and we're going to create this square image on which this goes. Okay. But we'll also now create an image that is just pitch black and it just darkens the screen. So click on designer. And the first thing we want to do is we want to add a canvas panel, but we did that already. I'm going to remove the white image from the inside because we don't need it. We want to, I'm going to zoom out slightly, we want to add an image. Search for an image here and add it inside. And I'm going to call this dark screen. And I'm going to, over here in color and opacity, turn it black. And then for anchors, I'll click on the anchor and I will, see how it says hold shift to update the alignment to match. I will hold shift and click on this and it gives me this at the end. And then I'll click here again and I'll hold control and I'll click that same thing. And it fills my entire screen with it. And if I compile and I save, whenever I click play, I get the screen to be completely dark. But it was important that I did it the way I did here, where I clicked on that, hold down shift and press once, then hold down control and press again. Because doing it that way, I assure that it's always centered and that it always fills the entire screen, no matter what the resolution of your screen is or your player's screen are. And I can prove that to you if I were to click here and say standalone game. It will start this level into a smaller preview window, one that is different than this 4K. And you can see that it's actually pitch black because the way we did it actually works, which is perfect. and I exited that. And here I'm going to change to selected viewport again. Okay, and I'll go back here. So that's absolutely perfect. It took me ages to figure out that you can just do the anchors this way and fill the entire screen. So you're welcome. I saved this. And the next thing that I want to do is on the color and opacity, I will now lower the opacity to 0. And I'll save. And that ensures that when we hit play and the screen is, the dark screen is here, it's just invisible at first, because that's how we want it. And now this next thing that I'll do is here, I will look for canvas panel, and I want to put a canvas panel inside of the canvas panel. And I want it to be under the dark screen, because that means whatever is in this canvas panel will actually be on top. This is like the ordering that this follows. And this canvas panel I will rename here to canvas panel square, because this will be a square image that goes right into the middle of the screen, and on that we put this. It will literally be this image. So this canvas panel square, after creating it and naming it, I'm going to click here and I'm going to do the same. Hold down Control press, hold down Shift press. And now I just know that I have another good holder. And in that holder, I will look for grid panel and add that inside of the panel square. There we go. And here I will say that I want its size to be 124 by 124, okay? Because that is what like a square texture is, and we essentially create a shader that ends up in that size. And then I will anchor it to be aligned 0.5, 0.5. But because you can see that it's now using that as a central point, I'm going to click here and I'll hold down Shift and press that, and hold down Control and press that. And now it just makes it be like perfectly in the middle while having the 1K size and alignment of 0.5 on each side. And we compile and we save. Inside of this now, we want to create an image. And we put it inside of the grid panel, like so. By the way, this might end up to prove useless. We probably could have had that out there, but like, let's keep it for now. And on this image, we will do the following. We'll say that its size is gonna be 124 by 124, and see, it immediately just fills it up, which is lovely. And then here for image, it's right now none, which means then it gets like a brush color of white, but we'll change that material in a moment. But before we do that, let's just test. So yeah, we start it and the darkened screen is like so, but we have an image. And then if we go full screen, you can see that I'm just making sure that everything scales correctly. And if you follow the way I anchored pieces, it should be like so for you as well, which is perfect. So with that done, let's click on color and opacity, and let's lower the opacity of this to 0 as well. Compile and save. Remove that. And that is the pieces added. This image, I'll say VFX screen. I pressed F2 to rename. And then finally, under here, we're going to add our Niagara systems to give us like the effect, but we'll do that in another part. For now, let's keep it as it is. Next up, let us create an animation that turns our screen from opacity 0, so like over here, sorry, over this image. It ramps up the opacity boom to 100. To 1 in this case, and it does it at the same time relatively as the opacity of these goes up as well, because that way we make it like appear on screen slowly. I don't know why I made a sound effect, but sure. And then back out from the screen. To do that, I'm going to select dark screen, and then again I'll put it back to 0, and I'll click here on this animation. And I'll say dark screen anim. And with that selected here, and this animation is selected and the dark screen is selected, and I click add and I say dark screen, okay, because that is the image. And here in the dark screen I click on the 000, and with me having be at 0 opacity here, I'm going to press this universal button for keying, and I'll add this keyframe, and it immediately gives me that. And then what I'm going to do next is I will move to the 0.5. I don't know what this is, frame, second, doesn't really matter in this case. To move to the 0.5, and here ramp up the opacity to 1, okay? And then move to 0.8, like so. And ramp up the opacity back, not back, but ramp up the opacity again to 1. So like essentially just click this. The reason I'm doing this is because here I'm saving like a moment in time when I know that like everything will be overly dark. And you'll see in a moment. Next up, I'm going to select the VFX screen. I'll go back to the 0. And here I'm going to click add again, and I'll say VFX screen. So at the 000 on the VFX screen selected here, we click that because we're at 0. And then we move to frame 16, which happens to be 0.50. And here we put the opacity to 1. And we click this. And then I can frame it again. And just a moment ago I lied actually, because it seems like I didn't put any offset on this. They run it in parallel. But I do think I put some kind of an offset on the Niagara. But anyway, so this is our animation existing. We compile and we save, and that is brilliant. We go to the graph. And here in the graph I want to add custom event. And I'm going to say play darken anim. And then I'm going to add another one. And I'll say play darken anim reverse. So you saw me, I didn't really animate it going from black to invisible. I just made it one way. And I made it one way because here I'm just going to be clever and play the same animation in reverse. The animation that we created, we can see it actually existing here now. I don't know if my head is covering it. If it is, I will move my head. We drag that and we get it. And we duplicate it down there as well. And here I'm going to say play animation. I'm going to connect that to that. It's playback speed 1, forward, everything just stays the way it is. I then duplicate this and I place it here. And I call that. But here I say reverse and I connect it to this. And we save. We still haven't created like the picking which color to be, but that is okay. Let's test. We go here, we hit play. And it's wrong. That should not be visible. So let's troubleshoot. Go here. Okay, I'm gonna select it and put 0. Okay, and then compile. And then play again. Yeah, now it worked. Like that's some kind of, it's probably not a bug, maybe I just hadn't clicked save in here. So if that happens to you, just select your thingy, tweak it again, make sure to compile and save, and then try again. But perfect, yeah, so like we hit play and nothing is on the screen. And then we want to play these animations, which is gonna happen in here. So we've created the enable dark screen, let's call it. And we have saved our reference of what door visual skin we have. It's in the setup, it's this one. So we call it and we connect it to that. So this assures that we get the right selection of color. It's not gonna work yet because it calls this and we haven't finished the logic, but we just wanted to get it done. And here, even though we haven't finish the logic of this. Let's just test it. So we're going to say play darken anim, and we're going to connect all of them for now. This is just us sketching. We'll fix it in a few moments. So now when I drop in and I run through it, through the portal, it darkens the screen and then it stays dark forever. So we just need to play it in reverse now once we've teleported and we're on the other side. Cool, so let's fix that next. In here, I'm going to copy this. This, by the way, let's just, I don't always keep the names, but let's say darken UI. And let's copy it, paste it there, and name it reverse. Here I'm going to create a custom event, and I'm going to call it, you guessed it, dark UI reverse. And what I'm about to do here is I'll just copy my homework from there, paste it here. And here call my play darken anim reverse. That's after I dragged from this. It will essentially call me this. And I connect it. That's wonderful. It's the function build, but we're not calling it anywhere yet. So the spot that we want to call it is here in the teleport. We want, after we're teleporting the player, to immediately just say dark UI reverse. And I want that color, because I like colors. And the reason I'm not calling it in here on the top branch, but I'm doing it just on the lower one, is because here in the load level, if I double click on it and it gets me down here, I will add down here a step that does the dark UI. And it will be right after complete, I will say dark UI reverse. And I'll expand a bit. And I'll copy my color because I love it so. Perfect. So that's done. Essentially, if we are loading a new level, we want to do the dark UI reverse right after the new level is loaded. We don't want to do it like anytime before that or after, which is why we've kind of moved the logic in here into this. While if we're teleporting in the same level from one spot to another, we just want to do it immediately after the teleportation is finished, which is why we do it so here. So that part is done, and if we go back, we can go through. It darkens and then undarkens, and that's perfect. And if I open the level that we made with you, which is this level, if I go through, it darkens, and the moment the new level has streamed in, only then it undarkens. And it's perfect because you can see how seamless it feels. Now I'll put on the screen the auto recording from before, and you'll see how when I were to go through here, I would see assets unloading in the distance. So it was an immersion breaker. So that is the darkening of the screen done. Next, we want to add the actual vortex and replace this white. But I'll be back after a short break. Sorry, I have a fiber in my mouth. Okay, that's better.